I have time to. Happy Wine Wednesday. I'm sure you're like, who is this? What are they doing here? Well, let me just tell you, I'm sipping on Chardonnay. Holly, what are you sipping on?
I've got PBR.
Hey, there we go.
I
Ray, I'm
didn't even get
guessing
my
you're
water
drinking
bottle.
the water.
No,
Okay.
I forgot to get my water
Guys,
bottle again.
dang it. Guys, first off, I want to tell you, my light's out, but the reason I look old and tired is because I'm old and tired. And I really do. The reason we're so late tonight is because Ray was reaming me for missing the past 2 weeks. I had a literal natural disaster kind of emergency the week before where I had no internet. And then last week, I'm just very, very stressed out with a new job. So all I can do is say I'm very sorry. Cheers to that. And I'm going to really put forth effort to, if I cannot be here from now on, to either have someone to run it and or make sure that you guys know that I'm not coming, because I know that we are a community and I know you guys care about me as I care about you, and I certainly didn't mean to worry anybody or leave anybody hanging. So I truly apologize that we haven't been around for 2 weeks, and anybody, we don't have a lot of watchers right now cuz nobody thought we'd be live. We're very late and it's, been 2 weeks. So anybody who watches this later, again, just know I'm truly sorry. We're gonna do better. I'm gonna do better, not we. I'm gonna do better, and if I can't, we're gonna figure something out because I don't want Wine Wednesday to stop. We might turn it into Grape Juice Wednesday and have somebody younger run it, but I don't want the community to ever have a problem and not have a place to go or give up talking to you guys every week because I love it, right? So I just wanted to get that out there right away that I'm so sorry. I'm going to do better, or at least let you know when I can't be here instead of just not showing up, because that's not cool. That's part of my problem at my job is people aren't showing up and then I get stuck. So I won't do that to you anymore, I promise. With that being said, I'm going to ask Holly and Ray how they're doing and what's going on with them. But if you have a Seahorse question after my big apology, we are here to talk seahorses and saltwater and water chemistry and all the fun stuff about saltwater tanks and even freshwater tanks sometimes. So if you have any questions, it is open chat this week. Sophie is on vacation, so she's not here with us, but she does have some guests lined up. So don't give up on us. We've got some things coming. And she has some guests lined up for some future weeks, but she'll be back, I think, next week, you guys, right?
I think so, yeah, because she's
Uh,
missing two, and then
I think
this
that's retarded.
All right. Well, Holly, won't you take the
By
show?
then she should have some fry coming.
yeah.
So, Ray, she has Fry coming.
Hmm.
Yeah, she saw an egg transfer, so she knows it's
Hmm.
happening.
Ah, man. So, what's her plan? Do you know if they are delivered before she gets home? Does she have a house or?
I think time-wise, she figured she was going to be back in time for
Yeah,
the
it
birth.
won't be now. It was just what, last week, I think she saw the egg transfer, right? About a week
Well,
or so ago.
yeah, two
Maybe two
this week,
weeks.
last week,
A
just
little
before
over a
last
week,
week, yeah,
yeah.
and so she wasn't going to be away long enough to be a concern in not being here for the birthing.
Well, what super sorry, my significant other's trying to change my headlight in the background. Apologies, guys. But what? Okay. So what I was gonna say is it's gonna be really cool when she gets back to learn how she kept the seahorses safe and fed while she was gone. So if you
Well, she has a house sitter.
Mhm.
well, don't answer for her. we
Mhm.
want to hear how it went because
Mhm.
I've gone on vacations and had an extremely good experience where I came home and my seahorses were fantastic. I've also had some really bad experiences where I didn't set it. I still blame myself, but I had my mother-in-law coming to feed, and I didn't explain how important it was to turn a pump back on. And I lost some seahorses because they had no oxygen. And it was literally a matter of hours, that I could have saved them. But hopefully that's not going to happen in Sophie's case. She's very careful. I'm just saying it'll be cool to hear from her, what she planned, how she planned it, and how it went when she gets back. That'll be great. And that's really cool that she'll have Fry right away. I'm super jealous. Still very jealous.
I forgot. I want to find out how she did with that piano exam.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Me too. And with the Fry part, guys, as I said, I think my seahorses just knew. If I had Fry, I can't even handle one Wednesday. I mean, come on. Like, no way I could have been handling Fry. They just knew. But I still intend someday to get back into the Fry, and I'm super jealous of anybody taking care of them because they're so awesome. A lot of work, but so awesome. So, anyways, we haven't had a question yet. So, Holly, tell me what's going on with you in your tanks.
Well, so Dandy's getting old. All the seahorses are getting old.
Yeah.
My youngest are turning 5 this year. Sadie's birthday is actually on July 17th. So coming right up, she's turning 5. And then the others will be 5 in October, including yours.
Let me interrupt real quick and ask you, just to give people reference, because, they go online and it says seahorses live a year or two, and it's not right. And obviously you're proving it. But how big and one of the points we always try to make to newcomers is, you're buying seahorses for this tank, and we recommend these larger sizes of tanks and bigger water volume. And people get these seahorses and they're like this, and they're like, why do these two seahorses need that much room and that much water volume? How big are your seahorses now?
Well, Sadie's the biggest. I'd say she's probably a good 9 inches or so.
I think bigger.
And there's a couple ladies in the other tank, some of her younger sisters that are pretty close or about that size as well now. So, yeah,
So you
I
gotta
think about
going
9.
from that.
She's
to
like
that.
this. So what is that? Maybe 9 or 10 inches. She's big.
Yes.
She's big.
Like bigger than your head, legitimately. I mean,
and then so they're getting older, and Dandy is 6.5 now, and he's been slowing down, and I've kind of noticed because he's the first seahorse that I've had that got old.
yeah.
So he was also handicapped his whole life, as most people know. So I'm surprised he's lived this long, but I don't know what to expect really when seahorses get old. But what I'm finding is it's pretty much just like people. He's just slowing down.
Right.
And so one of the things that he does is he takes a lot of naps now. And sometimes he scares me because I'll think that he's dying or it might be his last nap.
Sure.
Especially if it's during mealtime. So the other day I fed lunch and Dandy was sitting up. Usually he sits on the floor, but he has his heart-shaped hitch and he likes to sit in there and eat a lot of the time. It's comfortable for him. So he was sitting up in that. So he was up off the ground, but I was getting lunch ready. I came and I see him, his head is literally on the floor. He's hanging off the heart with his head resting on the floor.
Oh, geez.
And I looked at him and he's still breathing, but slow breathing. And I'm like, oh no, am I losing him? Am I going to lose him today? Da, da, da. But I know he's old, so what can you do? I expect it to happen anytime. So I went ahead and fed lunch. I filled the dish for him, and Sadie came right there and sat down, and she was watching him like she was concerned too.
Ooh.
And so we're like both kind of, well, are we going to lose Dandy?
Right.
And So then she ate a little, but she's still concerned about him. She's watching him. And finally it comes time, their half an hour was up. I give them a half an hour to eat now because they're old and slow.
Right.
So I come and I get the siphon and I sit down with the siphon, and Dandy's like, first his eyes are looking around. And then slowly he picks up his head and he sits up and he looks at his dish. He's like, oh, food. And then he starts eating. And when it's time for me to clean up the food. So
Mm-hmm.
I let him eat. He finished the meal. And then dinner time, he was fine. He was his usual, not completely spry self, but spry as he gets now. Ate a good dinner, and he actually went across the tank because he's got two dishes. He's got one on each side of the tank.
Sure.
Lately, he's been staying on the one side because he's tired and he doesn't want to swim all the
Yep.
way to the other side. But the other side of the tank is where Sadie sits, and he likes to be next to her,
Sure.
when he's feeling well enough. So he swam after lunch. He swam all the way across to the other side of the tank and had his dinner over there on Sadie's side, and she shared dinner with him over there. And then when I go to turn off their lights, I put it on a sunset setting so the lights start dimming, and he knows that's bedtime. So when I did that, he raced all the way across the tank without resting, without stopping. Boom, runs into his heart hitch, and so like, okay, I'm home.
Yep.
Dandy, you crazy old man.
Right. Well, and that's so funny because he's setting his behaviors, but it's such an honor to you that he has lived such a long life
Yeah,
because he was handicapped from the start, and you've cared for him and catered to him, and just to see that he's still enjoying life, and I see that as he really is an old man, and he was taking a nap. And
yeah,
you
totally
guys were like
was.
worried
But
about
I
him. He was
always
taking a
went,
nap.
and yeah, he takes a lot more naps now, and I don't worry about it. Like,
It is what it is.
sometimes I'll post a picture of him, and some of my Seahorse friends will be like, "Oh no, what's wrong?" or whatever. Well, he's just sleeping,
Yeah, right.
He lays down to sleep, or in this case, because usually when he's sleeping, he's actually laying down on the floor. Like he'll hitch his tail on something, but he'll lay down. So when he was sitting, hanging upside down with his head on the floor, that was kind of unusual for him.
What it tells me is that
Just
he's so comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
He can, he knows he's safe, and
Yeah.
he can, be in whatever position he wants. I think that's really a credit to you. And,
And he lets
I've
me
never
hold him
seen
now. I can
horses
pick
sleep
him
on the
up. He
ground,
lets
but
me pick him up. I spin him around. Like if it's dinner time and he's facing the wrong way on the hitch, I'll spin it around for him so his face goes in his plate.
well,
Because he's just tired.
yeah. And I would say again, credit to Holly and, anybody out there. This is abnormal behavior, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But it's because Holly's a superstar and such an amazing seahorse keeper that she cared for this seahorse that was handicapped from the start and, kept him to such a ripe age. And so anybody can do that. It's your choice, obviously. But even if you have a seahorse that's kind of an oddball, they can live for a
They
really
can
long
live,
time and
yeah.
be fun and have a good life. And yeah.
It's crazy. He's outlasted other seahorses I had that got the bacterial infections and things like that. Dandy's never had any of that happen. So
Ah,
he has a different kind of immune system. He's handicapped, but he doesn't get sick. I don't know.
I do see Zen Ginger out there. Hey, Zen, you missed my whole big apology for being so absent lately. Go back and watch it. And I would say too, I want to know where you are in your process, because we still can't wait to get you in here and hear how your tank is coming along, because we still hope you're going to do seahorses. And I did, for anybody that
I
did,
think she's just stringing us along.
what?
I think she's just stringing us along.
Zen, you better get on him right now. Believe me, the reason that we were so late is because Ray was beating me up for being so absent lately. So he doesn't give night, he doesn't nice it down. He's going to tell you what he thinks. So we're going to need to see that seahorse tank is the point, Zen. We're going to need to see it. I know you had plumbing issues, and I am just teasing, but we still hope you're going to do it, and appreciate that you're here. What I would also
We need
say,
more young seahorses. Mine are getting old.
yeah, right. So, and that's and what I would say to anybody joining late, obviously this is open chat, so we'll sit here and chat with you guys. But if you have any seahorse questions about any process of seahorse keeping, ask away, because that's the other part of, yes, I'm going to try to do better about being here every week and or informing people if I can't be here, but I also want to shorten them, because I think that would help a little bit, is if if it wasn't all night long, because like literally I have in the background right now somebody saying you got to replace your headlight and other stuff. So if we don't have questions, we're going to chat for a minute, but it might be a shorter stream. So if you have questions, ask them, please. But Holly, what were you just saying? I'm sorry. I feel like
I wasn't. I was going to look for the I didn't say anything, but I'm looking for the picture of Dandy. I think I took a picture of him with his head on the ground.
well, I was going somewhere with it and I completely lost it. What was I even saying? Oh my gosh, I'm such a mess.
Don't ask this guy.
Right.
With my memory.
What's the longest that you ever kept a seahorse, Ray?
I don't even remember.
I mean,
yeah,
like, what's your average then?
I guess it probably it was some of the reed eye, maybe 8-9 years in that range.
And did they change over time? Like, did you notice that they changed as they got older?
Other than size, I'm not aware of anything. But then again, I'm not a very observant person, so I don't notice things. Um, you people see things that I wouldn't see.
Do you mean, by you people, do you mean women?
It's women, people.
It just happens that it's women that are on right now, but other guys notice things more than what I do.
So, but I mean, like, you didn't feed less, they kept having fry, all that stuff?
No,
See if you could see it.
the only thing that I can recall is I would gradually have to increase the amount
Wait,
of
Holly,
food.
show it big. Hang on.
Okay.
See how he's just got his head
yeah.
down on the floor, and Sadie's sitting next to him eating his food,
Yeah.
but he's
Like,
just hanging there with his head on the floor. I'm like,
well, she's not scared, but anybody seeing that would be scared. Right.
no,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, Daddy.
Go on, Ray.
I noticed the food intake increased for, I'm guessing now, 3 or 4 years, maybe into the 5th year. But once they got full size, it stayed the same, and I'm not aware of feeding them less when they got closer to their demise. And in my case, I can't even say I saw signs of when a seahorse was going to pass, unless it was a case of there was something wrong and it died from something that happened. But ones that kind of died a natural death, I would just go in one time and they're dead.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Sorry, I'm sending a text. Hang on. Need help. So is this the longest? You said this is the longest you've kept seahorses alive, Holly?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's an awesome thing because they're the same seahorses. You've kept the little clan together, and I mean everything's worked out. And are you at the point like are you gonna start again when you lose the seahorses or no?
No, at this point, if I lose one more in either tank, I'm going to combine everybody into one tank and shut down the other one and hold on to the equipment for the lifespan of those seahorses. Like in case something breaks, I'll have a replacement. And then once the seahorses are gone, then I'll take a break from the seahorses and go from there. I might come back to it, but I want to take some time to travel and do other stuff. So I don't want any pets during that time, not dogs, not cats,
Sure.
no pets. And then after probably a few years of that, then I'll probably get a dog again, a cat again, and maybe I'll do fish again. I can't really say, but at this point in my life, I'm realizing that I need a break because there's things that I want to do and see before I get too old to do those things.
Sure. Well, and that's fair. That's fair. But that's also why, again, I think it'll be so interesting when Sophie gets back. If we can come up with truly not foolproof, there's nothing that's foolproof ever. But if we can come up with tips that help people know that they can keep seahorses and still take those vacations, that would really help because it has been a hindrance, right? Like you're very worried, if you leave, the feeding is so different, especially if you have fry,
And
it can
things
be.
in my case can be complicated because where I live, like especially in the summer, they can shut down power at
Right.
any time, due to fire danger or whatever. And I can't keep the seahorses going without running them on a generator. So when the power goes out, I need to put them on a generator. And that can be,
More would give to a
so
housekeeper.
much responsibility for somebody.
Sure.
Like if I had somebody that had experience, with saltwater tank equipment and things, but where I live, I really don't know anyone with aquarium experience of any kind, even freshwater. So it's kind of daunting, when I ask friends about it, they're confused by the stuff, all the equipment I use and things like that. And then to throw a generator, you might have to turn on the generator. And if it doesn't come on right away, you need to do this. There's a lot to it here.
Sure.
So.
Well, and like in my area, that's not as big of a concern at all. So, me going on vacation is very doable. So it does depend on where you live. I completely agree. But I just love that you're number one, proving that you can keep seahorses to an older age. And even if they're handicapped. And then Sophie's proving that you can keep seahorses and go on vacation, just like I have. And Bonnie, I'm going to get to your question in 2 seconds. But Ray can't remember how old his seahorses were or if he ever took a vacation. So, he's here.
Always took vacations.
How did you take care of the seahorses when you went?
Well, it depended on whether I had fry on the go at the time or not. Most times I had fry in one stage or not, or another. But if they were new fry, usually if I knew I was going away, I would just not keep them. If they were, say, a month and a half, 2 months old, then I would be able then to tell my sitter how to look
Yeah.
after them. Because at that stage, it's much easier.
Yep.
And I never went away for longer than 2 weeks at a
Yep.
time. And believe it or not, that meant that those fry containers didn't get cleaned for 2 weeks. But I can't remember anything bad happening because of
Right.
that. It may have, and I've forgotten, but I don't
Well, no,
recall.
I agree with that because if you take really good care of your system, it's not good for it to slack for a week or two. But if it's well maintained consistently, then if there is a lapse for a week or two, it's not going to kill them. It could even be,
I would, just before I went away, I would do a massive cleanup of the
yeah,
tank, cleaning down the bottom of the containers, the sides, everything, and 100% water
yeah.
change. So that's part of what give me the extension through there. And then it's it's a critical thing for your sitter to know exactly just how much to feed,
Yeah.
because if they feed just a little bit too much, your whole plan goes down the drain.
So I'm gonna say Bonnie asked, "Have you seen Teresa's YouTube videos?" I have not. Feel free to post a link. I'm all about supporting the community, so post a link up so we can go check out her channel. But I would do not YouTube videos for my house sitter or seahorse sitter, but I would literally make videos that I wouldn't post, but I would walk through. So this is how you do it, and literally show on the video this is how much food I'm feeding. So it's not just saying like a fourth of a cube. It's showing this is what it looks like, especially after it's rinsed or whatever. And if you're talking about brine shrimp, this is how much. Or I'm sorry, if you're talking about fry, and we're talking about live feed, then this is how much I'm concerned with. This is the density of the container or tank that I keep it at. This is how I handle. I would do it all in video. And then the cool thing about technology today is I set up cameras. So I can literally check on my seahorse tanks any time of the day, whether I'm at work, on vacation, wherever, and and the camera that I have has voice. So if my sitter has agreed to feed the seahorses at 2, I just make sure wherever I'm on vacation, even if it's a different time zone, I get on the cameras at 2, and I can say, "Oh, you're doing great," or she can say, "Hey, am I doing this right?" And I can see it and I can tell her. It's really kind of much easier these days um, because of technology. And she has massive success with many fry. That's amazing. Um, Definitely share her channel. So glad to hear it and see it. Yeah, massive success with fry is always good. We need breeders that are cultivating captive bred seahorses to share with the community, right? And the reason I was asking Holly earlier, as her seahorses get older and as mine get older, because mine aren't giving me fry, right? So I'm way too busy right now. I know it now. I know I can't handle that responsibility. I don't want to fail at it. I don't want to half-ass it. I shouldn't have said half do it. Excuse me. So I'm okay with the seahorses I currently have just getting older, living their happy little lives, and me not doing fry right now. But I already know because it's happened to me before. When my mom passed, I went through a really big depression. I let my tanks go, and I eventually lost my seahorses. They were still old. They lived long lives, happy lives, but they died off of old age. And I didn't, push them to try to live longer, give me fry, whatever. And so I did what Holly was talking about, and I was like, took a break, and I was concentrating on getting myself together after I lost my mom and this, that, and the other. I missed the seahorses desperately. Like I just missed taking care of them, coming home to them. They were like the best pet I'd ever had. I've had dogs, I've had cats. That's a love too. But for some reason, at least for me, keeping seahorses is just like a thing, and I couldn't. I had to do it again. You know what I mean? Like I got myself together first so that I could take care of them. But and in this case, I still want to do fry. But I'm gonna let me figure out my outside of seahorses life. I'm going to figure that out first, get my job together, get my kids together, get all that stuff together, and then I'm going to go back to it. I still am going to take care of my seahorses and let them live till their ripe ages. But I'm okay with taking that semi break and, getting myself together before going back to it. So to wrap all of my rambling that I just did up, we need breeders, because when I come back to it here, and I'm talking about 6 months to a year, not 5 years. So I'm gonna need some fresh, healthy, ready to breed captive bred seahorses ready and available for me. So definitely put them all on this channel. Connect us together. And I forgot where I was going, but the point is, it's okay to take a break, but you're going to miss your seahorses. I'm going to stop rambling now. Right?
I probably would, because I've had them a few times now.
After my mom, I went through my thing, but then I was like, I don't want to have a house without seahorses. Like they are my dogs. I walk in and they're up at the, they're my babies, and I love them.
They are.
Ray looks at things differently. He doesn't name his seahorses. They're not his babies. But Ray, when you would, maybe lose a bet, did you ever go a period without seahorses?
Not until everything, when I finally had to drop out, like when the abs and the barbs finally passed, and that was it.
Interesting. Well, I mean, you're lucky, but you never had like crisis that caused you to stop keeping them, right? So
No.
I'm talking about crises that caused me to stop keeping them for a minute, and I couldn't not go back because I wanted to keep them so badly, and I just love having them. They're so amazing. Like, I don't understand why everybody doesn't want seahorses. I'm being dead serious too. Like, I'm not selling them, so I'm not trying to convince you. I just can't imagine. Like, I plan a new house around having my seahorse tank. Like, I can't imagine not having them. So yeah, as mine get older, I'm thinking along the same lines, but I know that with all the stress in my life, of course, you have to be ready for them, right? Like, with all the stress in my life, I don't want to not take care of them or do them justice. So I'm willing to say maybe they were smarter than me, and that's why I didn't get fry, and maybe I will next time, which will be soon, because I'm not going to get them right now because I have too much stress, but I already know I can't live without seahorses. But Holly,
well, there's people raising them.
I want to see what happens with you, Holly. Like, you're going to take a break. You're going to go on your travels. I want to see if you're
I'll be able to come visit you.
That's it. But I'm curious to see if you come back and are like, I miss having them. I mean, like, I just miss having them. It's work, but they're just so amazing. I don't know.
I'd probably do it on a smaller scale if I did. I wouldn't do fry. I would probably get same sex or something and have just a pair, and probably use a smaller setup, like maybe like a 40 gallon or so. 40, 50 gallon for a pair.
And Zen shared some of the videos we should go check out for sure. And I will too, because I love seeing the fry. And
Yeah, they're so cute and funny.
Holly's plan is fantastic, but mine's different. I see my retirement filled with fry, right? That's how I just love it. So, I mean, it depends on who you are, what you want to do, but I wouldn't be doing it at that point, like to try to breed for sales or money or a job. But I just can't imagine not having seahorses. They're just so special and awesome, in my opinion, whatever. But I think I'll always come back to them. And I still have mine. I'm just saying, as Holly mentioned, mine are getting older. I don't expect fry now. They're getting too old to the point where, I don't think they're gonna have any. But we've got Sophie to update us on all her fry.
Mhm.
And, so we'll still keep it lively, but
Mhm.
I will always have seahorses. I just feel like I will.
Mhm.
Bonnie asked, are seahorses happier in groups?
I'd
Yes.
say yes, at least one. I think a pair you're fine. Because
Why?
right now, I have one tank that has a group of 4. And then I have Dandy and Sadie in the other tank. And Dandy and Sadie seem just as happy as the 4 in this tank. They like each other's company. But if you have 2, that's enough.
Ray, go ahead and answer before I do.
Sorry?
I said, go ahead and give your opinion before I do. Why do seahorses need groups?
Uh, it's just they happen to be a communal, social creature,
Mhm.
and not too many like that are going to be happy on their own. And just from experience, whenever I had a seahorse that I put on its own for any reason, like especially for treatment, you could see that they weren't happy. But for treatment, it was a necessity. Um, but when I had a tank where would have a pair in and I lost one, then I wouldn't leave that individual in there for too long because it was quite evident that the change and being alone, they were not happy. So I would find a way to integrate them into another tank then with others.
Yep. I love that you said that. I was going to say that too. That's one of the things that I hate about treating a seahorse when they're sick, is that then they're alone and they do hate it. And I think that stresses them more, which if you go down the rabbit hole, well, if they get stressed more and their immune system's down, then the medication is probably attacking whatever's wrong with them more, maybe. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but it works out. You have to do it when they're sick. But I have noticed that too, that when they are in a treatment, the fact that they're alone affects them. They don't like it. And I would also say that they are very social with you, right? That's why I love seahorses, is that they're not like normal fish. They come up and communicate and interact with you, right? So there's that social aspect, but you're not at the tank all the time, 24/7, right? And if they have another seahorse or other seahorses, then they like it better because I don't know why, but they are communal. I would say too that I've had seahorses that were not. I've told you guys this story before, but I had a bachelor tank. And why I created this bachelor tank is because I had multiple tanks around my house at the time. Most of them were erectus. I did have different species, but most tanks were erectus. And in like 2 of them, I had male seahorses that were just jerks. They were jerks. And I can't tell you why, like it's just a personality thing. And they do have personalities. And these males would snip at everybody. And when I say snip, I mean like they would bite them. They don't have teeth, but
Mhm.
they would, with lips, bite them and scare them and make them jump. And they would have their territories, and they didn't want anybody near them. And they'd chase everybody away. And they were just mean to the other seahorses. They didn't want to be part of the community, which is exactly the opposite of what I just described. But this was out of hundreds and hundreds of seahorses. I think I had 3. And anyways, those 3 I put in their own tank. I was like, okay, you little jerks, I'm going to put you in a tank together. And they figured it out. They all had their separate territories. I made the tank big enough to where they just stayed in their sections, and that's what they wanted to do, right? So I mean, there's exceptions to every rule, and I created a bachelor pad for my mean seahorses, but 90% of the time they want other seahorses around them. They want to interact with you. They want to be part of a community, and so when they're alone, they just are kind of like, what am I supposed to do? You know, because they're used to interacting. All right, I'll stop rambling now. But all right, let's see. Bonnie asked, do females have less chance getting gas bubble disease? Anybody want to take it?
I don't know that that's true, but I experienced less of it with the females than I did the male.
But
So,
they don't get the pouch emphysema, but they
right.
still can get gas bubble disease. And it's
Mhm.
So,
basically, it's another situation where the one with the worst immune system is going to come down with it first, and that's the females or the male. And uh, why a male might come down with it first is their immune capabilities might be lower if they've been producing fry.
sure.
Mhm.
So the first thing, he kind of touched on it, but the first and most important thing is, you say GVD, and there's 3 different types. One's not even really a
Mhm.
GVD type, but you've got internal GVD, gas bubble disease, external GVD, and then pouch emphysema. So pouch
Mhm.
emphysema is when the male's pouch gets inflated and he can't control it, and all of a sudden he's floating at the top. He can't swim down. It's effort for him to swim down, and you have to do pouch evacs to get the air out of the pouch, in order for him to swim properly, and etc. External GBD is when you see like literal tail bubbles, like there's a bubble of air on the tail of the seahorse, multiple usually. Internal GBD is something that nobody understands and is terrible, and it's more likely something bacterial. We don't know how to fix it. We know how to treat it. Its symptoms, and I've had seahorses live long, happy lives, that gave me the indication of internal GVD. But many, many times, if a seahorse gets internal GVD, it's a lost cause, and mainly you see the seahorse just start to blow up. So gas is their internal system is not processing gas the right way, and they start to blow up, and it's just miserable and awful, and can be treated like a bacterial infection, but it's very hard to treat, and it doesn't happen very often. As far as male versus female, again, if you're talking about pouch emphysema, obviously that's only males, right? When it comes to external GBD, I've only seen it in males. I can't tell you why. I can't give you the scientific reason, but I've only seen external bubbles on males.
I think that's true for me
Yeah,
too, because I lost 2 females to
right.
internal, but I've lost more males to like a
Yep.
combination.
Pouch.
Oh,
Yep.
well, not so. I haven't. I've only had one seahorse that ever had the pouch thing,
Lucky you.
but he turned out to have
Yep.
internal.
Yep.
But that's how I
So
first
I
noticed
really
was
do,
the pouch.
as Ray mentioned, when you talk about pouch emphysema, many people think that it has to do with pregnancies. I don't. I don't agree with that. I don't think it has anything to do with pregnancies.
No.
I think it's something bacterial. I mean, maybe it has to do with pregnancies in the sense that it got into the male because
Well,
he's pregnant.
bacteria gets in their
Right.
pouch is what I think. The fact that they have a
Right.
pouch,
It gets in.
makes them
Right.
prone.
But
In my point, though, the male pregnancies tend to run the male seahorse down, so that the immune
Yes.
capabilities mean that they get more, or they are more susceptible to any seahorse disease, not just an external gas bubble or an internal gas bubble, just anything at all. They're going to be more susceptible to it.
no, I actually think that's the perfect answer. That is the right answer. Is
Yeah,
that
I have to
yes?
agree with that.
I don't think it should scare you away from keeping males, right?
No.
Because many males never have fry, or many males are healthy enough to withstand, but they are more susceptible because they have the pouch
Mhm.
and because they have labor, right? Us women are strong as hell. Those seahorse men are strong as hell. I'm not going to answer that, but
And they seldom will
Well,
eat
they're
properly
always
while they're carrying.
flushing water in and out of their pouch.
wait, Ray.
They're
They seldom what?
They seldom eat properly when they're carrying.
Right, right. Agreed. Holly, what were you saying?
I was saying, well, also, they're flushing their pouch all the time. They're making themselves look big. They're letting water in. If you've got high organics in your water, I imagine they're exposing them to bacteria and stuff when they do that. So
Zen said that sounds like when a freshwater fishy gets dropsy. It's more of a situation than a disease and usually just indicates other organ failure, likely from bacteria, and causes swelling. So, right. Not going to disagree with you.
I'm not familiar with that, but it sounds
Yeah.
similar.
There's just no answers at this point, to be
A
honest.
fish thing.
Um, it if your seahorse gets GBD and that's your only seahorse, or that's you're only of one of two seahorses, I would absolutely recommend treating, because I have treated and been successful and kept seahorses alive for a very long time. The medicines on the market today aren't as good, so I will say that. And but I will also say that out of all the seahorses I've kept, it was very rare, right? You hear about it because what are so like me, I'm such a terrible Facebook poster anymore. I'm never online. But when do you think I would come online? It would be if my seahorse had a problem, right? If I'm busy with my life, I'm probably not going to show you like Holly does, because Holly's amazing. But I'm not going to show you every time my seahorse does a flip or loves a new toy. But if my seahorse has a problem, then I'm going to post, and that's what you guys would see. So you see all these posts about, oh, my seahorse is swelling, or tail bubbles, or pouch emphysema, and it's because that's people come to you when there's a problem, right? They don't usually come when there's just wonderful seahorses. So I would say it's not common. It's not like it's something you should worry about when you're setting up for seahorses. But if it did happen, um, let's talk about that real quick, because we are going to make these shorter. I keep saying it, but what would you do if you did have a seahorse with, let's say, internal GBD that you had to treat, and what would you do with the rest of the tank, or what would you do in general, Ray?
Nowadays here in Canada, all you can do is hospital tank and do water changes, because you basically can't get any or you can't get any medications to be able to treat it. And when it comes to in internal diseases. I'm trying to think back, but I don't think I've ever been successful with meds or not over my 21 years. I don't believe I was ever successful.
So, Zen Ginger just said in freshwater, those symptoms happen a lot more in fish that come from bad stock and inbreeding, like goldfish and bettas, also. So maybe genes play a factor. I absolutely agree with that statement. I think it's when seahorses are bred down into multiple generations. I think that it's if they come from bad conditions. I think it's just bad luck of the draw. And so that's why we need more good breeders providing very healthy captive bred seahorses so we don't see this problem. Now, I also want to say on the hindsight of that sometimes we don't understand GBD, just to be honest. The scientists don't. So if your seahorse does end up with GBD, you can't say it's because it came from a bad breeder, right? That's not fair. It could be your conditions. It could be something contracted from birth or genes, like Zen Ginger is saying. So there's just not a lot of answers about it. And Ray, you were never successful. I was. I was successful treating all three forms of GBD. But internal is absolutely the hardest. And it does usually indicate organ failure, as I think Zen said too. But again, guys, this is rare, and we're sitting here talking about it. And anybody who wants to keep seahorses comes and watches this, and it's like, oh my gosh! But the thing is, it's rare, right? So you shouldn't be afraid of
Yeah, and I mean, I've
seahorses.
had seahorses, like the seahorses I have now, all lived, they're related to the ones that I lost due to that.
That's true too.
So so who's to say? I think it's like Ray always says, is that some of them just have stronger immune
Yes,
systems than other ones
yes,
do. So there was ones that that got the bacterial infections, the high organics affected them more than the seahorses that lived through it. Like I said, Dandy's never gotten sick,
right.
but he has other issues, but he's never had the problems that some of my other seahorses have had. And I think one of the females I have in this tank here, I'm pretty sure I did treat her at one point
Yeah,
for internal infection a few years
and she's
back, and
still good,
I
right?
still have. I have one. I remember when you were talking to me about you had one whose eye
Yes,
got all big, and I had that happen with one of my
yeah,
females, and she was fine, after I treated
yep,
that. So
yeah.
I don't know, but I've lost the seahorses that I have lost. It was all
Back,
due to
yep.
bacterial
Well,
infections every
and
time.
sometimes, and so, hey, key point here is if you set up
Mhm,
properly, if you don't try to curb the rules, meaning you don't try to put too many seahorses in a small tank, you make sure the filtration is adequate, you make sure you set up properly, feed properly, make sure you have a system that can keep up with that food properly, you're going to be more successful, right? You're not going to run into these problems. And that's the key is we need to do another new tank setup stream where we talk about how to set up so you never see these problems. And as far as, Holly's mentioned that I've had 3 or 4 or 5 or maybe 10 different ailments in seahorses, but you have no idea how many seahorses I've kept, right? And bred. I mean, I'm talking thousands in and out of this house. So, you know, to say 10 of them had these terrible problems is very different than someone new or someone just keeping a herd or, two or whatever. So, a herd.
mhm.
I just said a herd for seahorse.
Heard a seahorse. Well, they are
Right. They
Little
help
horses.
peace, right? Okay. Right. Okay,
Can
we're
I
gonna
talk
take
about polysporin?
what?
Can I talk about polysporin?
Polysporin. Yeah.
Okay, recently on Facebook, there was a query about what looked like bacterial infection on a tail. And being that the person was from Ontario here, they didn't have access to medications. But
Yes.
she asked, was it okay to use polysporin? Well, I've got polysporin up in the closet upstairs that's so expired.
Mm-hmm.
We bought it when we were babysitting the grandkids when they were small, and the youngest grandkids
Mm-hmm.
now are 25. So that's how long ago. But the
Yeah.
thing is, I never ever thought of that. Well, polysporin has a couple antibacterial agents in it.
Yeah.
They're a fairly common one, and it's not prescription required. But in the event that you have no access to anything and it's something external like that on a tail, then would it not be possible then to maybe at least try using that polysporin and putting it on? Now,
I
I
Yeah.
don't
would.
know how it's a cream, and when you put it on, I don't know if it's going to affect the water some way and, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe poison them or whatever. But I was just curious, maybe someone has already tried that and has an answer. But
I've thought of using Neosporin too. Back when I was treating thing too that had the bad tail situation going on, and I was using a koi treatment called debride or something at the time, and I thought of using, because I always have Neosporin on hand, and I think it's like the same kind of thing. You know, you put it on cuts and stuff. It's
I
antibacterial
don't
and
see how
stuff.
that could affect.
You put it on them
No, no,
outside of the
no.
water,
Right.
because I've used treatments
Right.
similar, and then let it
Yeah.
dry for a
Hold the
minute
tail out of the water.
and put them
Yeah.
back in the water. And I don't think it would really affect
I
the water
agree.
that much, because you're using such a tiny amount. I don't know how effective it would be for them,
It's
because
going to come
I
off. Right.
imagine, yeah, it comes off quickly. So the key is, keeping them out of water long enough to let it do something for
Right.
them.
hold their head in water,
But
hold
I
their
And
tail.
you could
see
even,
that it would be
well,
bad.
and thinking along those lines, if you were to try to use Neosporin or whatever, you could keep the tail above the water and, treat it,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, for however long, and then wipe it off.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't have an answer.
I have a specific treatment for aquatics downstairs as a gel, and I can't remember what it is. Comes in a little.
Is it the Alloderm?
Pardon?
Alloderm or Alamax?
No. Um, I can't remember what it is right now. I've still got it, even though I don't need it, but I'm pretty sure it's still sitting on
Mm-hmm.
the shelf that I have downstairs for it. But I used to use that on a tail infection and put that on, and it would wash off fairly fast. But by doing it a few times a day, it was something that I was able to use to success. So why not now use some of these ones that don't need a prescription and give it a try? Like if
Yeah.
we don't try it, we'll never know.
Yeah, I'd say it's no harm in trying it.
We lost the boss again.
Yep, she'll be back. Her computer keeps freezing up. But yeah, I've thought of it. I almost tried it because I didn't have anything that I was trying was working. I was using the Alloderm, the Alamax, and some other things, and it, I did think about it because I always have that, in my medicine cabinet, and I think I ran it by somebody, and it was just like we just said no, didn't know. You probably could. I could probably just Google it, and I bet somebody's thought of it before and might have an answer. Just on fish, can you use Neosporin on fish? Let's see what it has to say. It says while some aquarium hobbyists might suggest using Neosporin on minor fish wounds, it's generally not recommended and can even be harmful. It contains antibiotics that can be absorbed by the fish and potentially disrupt their gut flora, and the ointment itself might not be ideal for the delicate skin of a fish.
But then the seahorse,
But I would say if you're already losing them, what do you have to lose? Might as well try it. It just says it might not be effective against the types of infections that affect fish, is what it is. So I don't know, but and somebody else says, like, on koi, it says you can use any type of triple antibiotic cream and even create your own antibiotic paste.
looks like she's having problems getting back on.
Yeah.
Tanya posted there saying, I'm Kelly's daughter.
Hmm.
Is Tanya the name of one of the twins?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Tanya. Yeah. Hmm. So it looks like there's a mix of people talking about using our topical antibiotics on fish. Some people do use it.
Yeah.
So I would say try it. If not, don't have
Some
anything
people are
else
using
that's
it
working.
and haven't followed up with posts saying never do that again. Then I suspect it's probably advantageous to use it.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. This is my luck. I'm telling you, it's not on purpose. It's
Uh
just my life.
That's okay. We got one of your twins on.
Oh, yeah.
oh. Yeah, Tanya came on.
Oh, yeah. She was trying to call me too. Um, I did we answer Zen Ginger's question? If
Oh,
someone
if
wanted to
someone
breed,
wanted to breed,
would it be better to possibly purchase the male and female through different sources or at different times at least for stock diversity?
I'd say it couldn't hurt.
Well, in my opinion, it's only good if you buy from the same breeder, so you're not introducing pathogens that each can't expose the other two and possibly lose them. But the problem with that is that if, depending on the breeding stock that is used by that single source, you may be buying just stock that's um, same bloodlines.
So I would talk to your breeder. I can't make my camera work, guys. Something's wrong with my internet. But I would talk with whoever you're buying from because they'll usually be honest with you. If you know what you're talking about and you say, "What generation is this?" They're going to be like, "Oh, this person knows what they're talking about." And if the seahorses have been bred to like 4th, 5th generation, Chris Carey would disagree with me, but like I wouldn't count on 4th, 5th generation to produce good fry. Chris Carey has had better luck, just for the record. But
Yeah, wouldn't bother me either. Wouldn't bother me either. Not at that low scale.
See,
I'm not even sure that 10 or 12 would make a difference.
See, I totally disagree.
Interesting.
Well, seahorses have changed so little from when their first origin is known. It's like a dinosaur that never ever changed.
Yeah, but what does that have to do with inbreeding?
If things are changing that slow with that type of animal, then I'm not going to worry about it so much.
What I'm worried about is when if you have a pair of seahorses breed and they have fry, and then within that set of fry, they breed, and then you have a 3rd generation, and then within that generation, no new blood, no new genes, just within that generation, they breed. And then you're talking 5, 6, 7 down. Any bad things that are passed along,
Kelly, the thing is, you're trying to insinuate the science of your average life form, like dogs, cats, cows, pigs, whatever. But we're talking here something that is a prehistoric life form that hasn't evolved in eons, and based on changing at that rate. When we look at how many years back it's taken just to see the changes when, say, a redi and a rectus have come together, and to try and follow that down. As a matter of fact, a lot of those won't keep breeding. You get a couple generations down, I don't believe they keep on breeding when you get those mixed hybrids.
So then why did Dan so specifically say that everyone that's buying seahorses, for their tanks needs to buy captive bred, needs to buy from a reputable breeder, but breeders have to have access to new blood?
Well, I believe Dan was caught up in the same theories, and he was applying things that will apply to humans and to dogs and cats and so on, but not considering that this is a prehistoric life form that has not really evolved in thousands of years.
What does that have to do with?
Is that true of all fish?
Yep.
Is it because they're fish, or is it specific to seahorses?
No, fish have changed a lot more drastic, but when you look at seahorse is really
well, wait.
Plain haven't changed.
To go back to Holly's question, let's ask then Ginger. Like I absolutely believe that it is true for fish too. If you're a breeder, you're constantly having to bring in new strains to.
Yeah, I agree with it when you're talking fish.
So what's the difference with seahorses?
Fish are not prehistoric.
Okay. Well, I can tell you in my personal experience that when I had, hang on,
I would treat them like crocodiles.
Let me finish. In my personal experience, I got down to 3 generations. So I had a pair of seahorses that were either 1st or 2nd generation that were very healthy, very strong, gave me very good fry. They had fry. And then within my adolescence that I was able to raise, they started breeding with each other before I could separate them, before I knew what I was doing, before I could figure it out. And so then they had fry. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. The fry were weaker. They weren't as big. It could have been because they were new parents, sure. But even after 2nd, 3rd batches, they just weren't as rambunctious as from the main parents. Then
I'm
Though,
seeing
hang on,
a
hang on.
lot
I
of
got down
stuff
to,
to support
hang on.
you, Kelly. There's a lot of Seahorse places saying the same thing you're
Yeah,
saying.
and then I got down to where those fry did live. I got some to live, and then they tried to breed with each other, and the fry weren't viable. And that's just 4 generations in. Now I'm a hobbyist breeder, so commercial breeders can do much better. But once you get, I remember,
They say 3. A bunch of places are saying 3. A bunch of different sources on
and I would
seahorses.
also say
And
that Felicia McCulley, who works for Biota, I remember her telling me that she was really big in the seahorse, community back when H. Fuscus came to the United States. So we got Fuscus in the population, and the community was raising these seahorses. And unfortunately, nobody could get more. So they were a really hot item. Everybody wanted them. Everybody was breeding them, and it was amazing. And they were amazing seahorses. And they literally just died out because no one got new blood, and the breeding couldn't withstand not having fresh blood. And again, guys, for a hobbyist, if you're just trying to breed for the fun of it, or just to sell your local store, this is not anything to concern yourself with. I'm just talking about commercial breeders and what they're supplying to us currently.
so what I'm reading, seahorse.com says undesirable recessive traits will begin to emerge. Eventually, the seahorses will simply stop
Yep,
breeding and the line will gradually
that's what
die
happened
out.
with Fuscus.
And then someone else says on Reef to Reef, I noticed they were susceptible to
Yep.
Vibrio, and inbred seahorses always had health
Yep.
issues. So, yeah, I'm just there's a bunch of people on here from different groups
So
that are
Yeah,
talking
basically,
about
it
it.
looks like whatever you can believe, whichever, and you just do react according to what you
sure.
believe. And if you believe you need more rootstock periodically, then that's fine. I'll stick with Crystal.
Right. I mean, Ray and Chris completely disagree with me. I would love to have Chris in here to have this discussion because he's had tremendous success with breeding down generations. So back to Zen Ginger, though. Again, as a
But it
hobbyist,
probably has to do with if the stock is super
right,
healthy, if they don't have traits,
right.
weak traits, then you're not going to have the
Well,
weak
and that's
traits show
why
up, I think.
commercial breeders like Dan would, you know, get their wild caught or whatnot. And then their whole purpose to getting the wild caught was not to decimate the population, but to provide captive bred. And they would find the healthiest, the strongest out of the ones that they got, and they would separate them. And that pair of seahorses or those pairs of seahorses would get ridiculously clean water, ridiculously enriched foods and live foods. And I mean, they would just get fattened up and be living like kings in mansions. And then their fry would be what they raised and, sold as captive bred. And maybe down a generation, they would pick the best out of that. A couple generations is fine, but it's just when you get down into these other generations, then, they don't breed, they won't, whatever. So, as a hobbyist, if you trust your source that you're buying from, ask them. Ask them what generation it is. If they don't know, don't plan on breeding. If you don't want to breed, hey, then that's perfect for you, right? It doesn't mean the seahorses are bad. It just means that I think something in them tells them it's time to stop passing on our genes or whatnot, if that makes any kind of sense. Um, And if they do breed, then maybe we're all wrong, right? Maybe Chris and Ray are right. Who knows?
Well, it just says in summary, while seahorses may be relatively adaptable and capable of reproducing in captivity, inbreeding can pose significant challenges to their long-term health and survival, particularly in closed populations or those facing other environmental stressors.
So,
See, to me, that statements like that don't mean anything to me unless I know who
yeah, I
makes
don't
them.
like that statement either.
Yeah.
Because it posing threats, no.
Anyway, listen, I gotta leave. It's starting to rain here, and I got a whole bunch of stuff on the deck here. I gotta move.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Thanks for coming,
Enjoy
Ray.
your rain. I wish we could get some rain.
Yeah, we haven't had enough for a long time now.
Hey,
Yeah, we haven't had any here
Ray,
either.
I'll be here next week and communicate if there's a problem.
Let me know if you are and when.
Yes.
I'm not so concerned about not making it.
Just communicate.
Just you tell me if you are
yes,
coming.
sir.
Hey, I'm coming
Okay.
on.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night, Ray.
All right, so my daughter's asking questions in the chat because she needs me to help her with something else.
I figured.
and I can't make my video work because something happened while when I went down. But is there anything else I've missed that we need to talk about? Zen Ginger did say, yeah, double dominance takes over at some point with most organisms, cause issues, deformities, and again, so we've got Dandy who's handicapped. Is that wrong? Is that bad? No, he's lived an amazing life, right? So it's a catch-22. It depends on where you are and what you're trying to do. If you're just looking to keep seahorses, don't even worry about any of this, right? Buy captive bred, enjoy your seahorses. Be happy they don't
And
breed.
who knows what, and who knows what caused his issue.
Right. And yes, I didn't mean to indicate
because I have
that was
other
it. Right.
seahorses from the same source that don't have that issue. I mean, he's in the same tank with Sadie, who loves to swim, and she sits upright to sleep.
So I wish you could see my face because I didn't mean that at all as an insult. I was just saying that if you have a seahorse with a problem, that doesn't mean that it's the end of the world. It can live a good life, and you can, I mean that. Yeah, I said it wrong. I'm sorry. I wasn't indicating that was the case because we don't even know, right?
Well, who knows?
Right.
I mean, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'll never know. But he's my pet, so I just take care of him.
And you have been loving, and he's lived an amazing life, and he's still kicking. Past some of your seahorses
still
that
happy.
Acted like,
even though he's tired, he's just tired.
Hey, I'm tired too, man. I get it. I'm with Danny.
Right.
But yeah. All right, you guys, I am gonna call it for tonight. I can't even cheers you because I can't turn my camera on. But I did come back, and we will be here next week. Sophie will be back, and she's all gung ho to get some guests on. So don't leave us just yet. And apologies for not being here for a few weeks, but we're back. So with that, I will say, Holly, I do want to talk to you on the side, but not tonight because I gotta go deal with my daughter. But so
okay, I'll let you go.
But call me maybe tomorrow night.
I will. I don't know what tomorrow night is. I'll try to, or it might be. I know I'm supposed to call you on a Saturday, but I keep going out on hikes and stuff. I don't know what I'm doing this Saturday.
Well, listen, don't let a phone call to me stop you from going on a hike because that's amazing. But let's just touch base because I just feel bad and I miss talking to you. But for you guys out there, we'll be back next week. Raise your glasses to us as I can't. And we'll see you next week. Happy Wine Wednesday.